G'day guys, welcome back to True Eagle. It is draft day. I thought I would take this opportunity to do a little draft profile on Malakai Champion, who we've now committed to taking as a next generation academy, provided we can match a bid. It's absolutely not locked in, but everything we're reading suggests that we should have no real issue getting Malakai Champion onto our list. Now, I'm perhaps making this video bravely because if, Fremantle snatch him or something like that, I'm going to look like an absolute idiot for making this video. But regardless, he is still a person of interest to the West Coast Eagles ahead of this draft. So I've done a whole playlist of profiling about 20 of the national draft prospects in this year's draft. So I'm going to include this video on that playlist, even though I did that on my other channel, True Footy. So I'm going to do this video in the same vein and profile him in a short and sharp manner. So Malakai is a 172 centimeter smaller midfielder forward. So he is primarily a forward. That's certainly where he's played most of his footy. However, stylistically, there is some midfield capability there. Will he play that role for West Coast at AFL level? It seems a fair way off. I feel like physically he's got to develop a bit first, but there is some sort of midfield craft in there as well. But I suppose we'll consider him a forward prospect really at this current point in time. So a little bit of a resume on Malakai. He was in the under-16s state team, earned All-Australian honours that year in the under-16s carnival, which is a great start in 2023. Played in the grand final curtain raiser match where they have a lot of the under-17 talents play, and I think his representation in that at least suggests that he was rated as a very draftable talent 12 months out from the actual draft. In 2024, he played again for Western Australia and perhaps most impressively earned some senior footy for Subiaco this year. We did just talk about him being a pretty light-bodied kid, but he played senior footy, and not only that, played really well. He kicked 7 goals in the first 3 games he played for the Subiaco Lions, and he kicked a bag of 3 against West Coast. I'm sure that's not too hard, but still. So he's a pretty well-credentialed player, when we're talking about him as a prospect. Like right now, as it currently stands, it seems like he might not get bid on in the national draft at all. We can touch on perhaps why. But he's done all the things that a typical kid that is expected to get drafted would, in terms of under-16s and under-18s WA representation, under-16s All-Australian, played in the Futures game, played Waffle Seniors. As far as a resume goes, that stacks up pretty well. He was also invited to the National Draft Combine, and he posted top 5 times in the 20-meter sprint at 2.93 seconds, which is pretty elite, and the agility test at 7.8 seconds. So that just marries up with what we can see when he plays on the field. Quick, nimble, very hard to catch. So we'll summarize his strengths and weaknesses. The good thing about Malakai that I think is important for the modern-day small forward is his defensive pressure and his intent to win the footy back in the forward line. So he's got that forward line craft, he's dangerous around goals, he hits the scoreboard, he's got that impact, but he's also an accountable forward as well, which I think is going to be very important, particularly for the new game style we're going to play. He's also blessed with goal sense, so he's not, purely just a defensive forward, obviously, and we did talk about him as being a little bit of a smaller midfielder as well, but he's proven time and time again he can find the goals, and he can kick goals from difficult angles too. He's also got a great leap on him and could be one of those Mark of the Year contenders at some point. He's also blessed with really good speed and explosive speed at that, so you can see him speeding away from a contest in an explosive manner, taking a bounce and driving the ball inside 50. Also sounds like he spent a little bit of time in the midfield getting back into the Subiaco Colts team after his stint in the seniors. He's also quite a good transition player, so when he gets the ball, he might start the chain, but then his ability to run and then be involved time and time again in that same chain is something, West Coast really lack. So that's really helpful. I don't think he's ever going to be a 25 possession a game midfielder. He's probably going to be with that impact player who probably plays on ball in stints, but he can push up the ground and help our ball movement out in spurts as well. In terms of weaknesses, composure has been one that's been highlighted around Malakai. He plays the game at a frenetic pace, so, perhaps he can be a little bit wayward. He can be a little bit wayward with his set shot kicking as well. That could be cleaned up to some extent. He's also been known to give away an unnecessary free kick every now and then. You have to also highlight his size. So he's currently 172 centimeters, and I read somewhere 66 kilos, but I believe we're not meant to know that anymore. I think it might be the Waffle website, which might be old anyway, so it may not be 66 kilos, but either way, he's still got a little bit of size to add to his frame, and players that small do need to compensate for that with some elite traits. But thankfully, he is very blessed athletically. We talked about his explosive speed, his agility, his leap. Those things can help compensate, and his ability to press and be defensively minded as well while on the forward line. He can at least pressure kicks and force defenders into errors as well. And being that explosive kind of quick athlete, endurance base is naturally something he's going to need to improve as well. So we highlighted his ability and his craft to play further up the field and help the team out, but he's not a player that gets a lot of the ball. And therefore, long-term stints of him playing in the midfield or on the wing, it's going to take a while for him to build up to that. So where does he go in the draft? Well, if you believe Kaltumi, at this current point in time, it seems more unlikely than likely, it was the phrase he used, that he gets bid on at all. Why is this the case? Well, I don't think it's that he's no good. I suppose it's just a deep and even draft pool. So, perhaps other clubs, when they know that there's a club-type player, like he's already aligned to us in our academy, they may not see the point in bidding on him. Maybe that's why we see time and time again these academy players not get bid on. Doesn't mean he's no good though, because Tyrell Dewar also didn't get bid on. We signed him as a Cat B rookie, and he looks every bit an AFL quality talent. So we're hoping we're just a little bit lucky here with Malakai. I had read previously on like Big Footy there was some concussion stuff with Malakai. I cannot find anything else to suggest that or back that up, so I don't know where that sits. He's a Kalgoorlie boy originally. I do suspect his preference is probably to stay in WA, so perhaps that means that someone like a Fremantle, who I believe interviewed him, I actually did read somewhere on Facebook that like 16 clubs interviewed Malakai Champion. Again, not concrete, and I just read it on Facebook. But nonetheless, he's not expected to get bid on. But Fremantle naturally would be a bit of a threat. So I think I read somewhere that if someone bids on him after about 45, 46, we already have the points to match it. So I'm pretty comfortable with that sits. I think there's a good chance he doesn't get bid on at all, in which case we can sign him as a Cat B rookie. I believe though, in that instance, we would have to upgrade Tyrell Dewar to the normal rookie list because you only have 2 Cat B rookies, and we also have Cohen Livingston. So I'd imagine West Coast are across that. I'm not too concerned about the logistics of how that plays out. He's not really a position of need, but I do think there's some AFL level talent in there, and I don't think you can say no to those types, particularly if you're going to get them as a Cat B rookie. I've also seen him interviewed. I think it was on the Brain Ethan podcast some time ago. Seems like a good kid. He's been through a lot as well. I think he lost his father not too long ago, and some other family members as well. So he's had a tough run up to the draft, but I'm looking forward to the moment we sign him, and I do think this kid has a future at AFL level. In an ideal scenario, it happens very easily for us, and we can get him as a Cat B rookie. And hopefully this is the first of a few good NGA prospects we've had. So I'm really happy with Tyrell Dewar. Malakai Champion looks like an AFL level talent at this current point in time. And then next year, I think there's Wes Wally and potentially Kobe Evans as well. So there's a bit coming through the door, which is nice. But let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think of Malakai Champion? Once again, I hope I haven't made this video and he ends up at the bloody Dockers. But let me know what you think of him, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.